Hello and welcome to the official podcast of Palate Exposure, featuring Ilona Thompson, a podcast for those seeking the ultimate in wine, food, and travel. Each week she interviews winemakers, chefs, celebrities, and a variety of guests that shape the way we enjoy life.
I think the wine industry as a whole, it started out, our grandmother was the first woman tour guide for Franciscan, and then went on to Beringer and Silver Oak. So we definitely have roots on all sides of it, and seeing, I can still remember being at Silver Oak as a little girl when she was working, and it's just, you see that, and we got raised with other wineries that are larger now, but started out the same way.
In a grape truck, delivering grapes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's truly a family business. And Silver Oak, again, is such a powerful example of how well they treated their guests, their customers, their employees. They're literally the frame of reference for how to do those things.
Yeah, Grandma still talks about it.
Yeah.
How great it was to work there.
So the conversations around dinner table had to be fascinating.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So what was the best part about growing up the way that you described?
I think the open space, there's free will, responsibility when you wanted it,
and
whether you wanted it or not. The learning potential, just the freedom of being out here. You're in the middle of nowhere, essentially, but still close enough to everything, and
I see where we're at now too, being able to know and see the different aspects and grow up understanding, that it was more than just, grapes or just vineyard. That was important. We were as much a part of the team, I feel, as my dad was. He made us very inclusive in the business, and this is just as much it's a family thing, not just I'm an adult it's not just a job, it's a way of life.
Wow.
And I feel like those are things you carry with you throughout your life, and that you can instill, with your team, with your children, and as a whole, and continue to grow. And it shows in the product. I feel that the wine represents that when you taste it. And even with our club members, we feel our club members are just such a part of our family. We have club members who've been with us for going on 15, 16 years now. And they've watched us grow up within the industry and really change the winery to what we envision, and the quality and continuity of it. And it's fun. When we have events, it's great. It's like having a giant family who's there rooting for you. And dinners, we get pictures sent to us of people, at their weddings, at their birthdays, enjoying our wine. So it's a lot of fun.
I think it's such a powerful concept that you just touched upon, a way of life. Not many people can say that, especially in an urban environment. It's very
true.
It's very segmented. You have your work, you have your commute, you have family time, and you can eke it out. But really, it's not a cohesive experience. It's not a way. So it's so rare. It's so precious, isn't it?
It is, and we're very lucky to be able to have that experience and be able to continue that experience. And
that freedom that you described.
Yeah. Well, I see it in my kids now. They're able just to, even come into the winery every once in a while when they do, they just cruise around, and they're on the bocce ball court, kind of bugging staff, but the staff enjoy it, I think, because they're nice and they're fun.
They're cute enough. Cute enough to get away with it.
They're cute enough to get away with it. And then just even at the vineyard, we'll take quads out, and they're able to cruise around the vineyard and the lakes and enjoy it.
It sounds so idyllic.
Yeah, the last power shut off, we were picking that day, so my kids ended up being leaf pickers in the vineyard with a cruise, and I think it gives them a much better appreciation, and and it gives them a chance to see if this is something they love to do.
Yeah, if they don't want to, they don't want to, but
it gives them a glimpse.
I feel like life does slow down a little bit out in Napa Valley.
It does.
Here.
Yeah, no,
except for harvest.
So welcome.
Harvest is a hustle and bustle, but
the
rest of the time it kind of just slows down a little bit.
And there's so much interconnections here. People are connected in a whole other way.
A really great sense of community, among other things.
It's, we talk about community in a somewhat artificial, remote way, just as a society, but here it's palpable. You really are so invested in each other.
And I think it's the wine industry as a whole. The wine industry in general, whether it's Pope Valley or on the Silverado Trail, I feel like wineries are a very strong community. People look out for each other. Wineries look out for each other. the Napa Valley Vintners as a whole looks out for, all of us and together. And I think that's something that isn't necessarily so in a lot of other industries, because yes, we're all competing products, but at the same time, we all are together in it, and we all really look out for one another, whether that be someone needs a helping hand with one of the the various disasters over the last few years, or whether it's just group meetings to bounce ideas off of and figure out where we need to go as an industry. So I think that is something really enjoyable about the wine industry as a whole.
It's particularly evident during the trying and challenging times, of course. Yes. There's a lot of stories in the media about, what happened, the events and such like that they're reporting on. What doesn't come out enough for my taste is that silver lining. And that's how people really support each other and stick together. And those things that you just described, it really is a litmus test. When you're really in the middle of something that's extremely challenging and pushing you to the limit, how do you show up as a human being, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And there's been a lot of unfortunate things that happen in the valley in the last several years, and the reality is that it's going to keep happening. So the choice is wringing your hands and being kind of vulnerable and feeling bad about it, or really kind of trying to figure out how to exist in this new version of reality and coexist and be successful and be happy, not just survive, but thrive, right? It's important
to enjoy what you do.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have it figured out already in a lot of ways.
We try to.
Try.
I always give a helping hand when I can, whether it's because we have the resources to, not necessarily monetarily, but for crews or trucking or anybody needs something, I'm always willing to help out.
Wow.
Here locally, even in Napa, people call us all the time for help, and I don't mind helping out.
That's so awesome. That's the side of Napa that I really just can't get enough of.
Yeah, Napa in a whole is that way, which is unique. In the whole area
You hear things about how expensive it is and saturated at times and this and that and maybe even hoity-toity.
Yeah.
But the real story is far more complex than that, and there's folks like you that are also technically in Napa, but you have a very different point of view.
Oh yeah,
you're as real as it gets.
Yep.
There's not even a whiff of ego. You make beautiful wines as I'm tasting.
Yeah.
And you're just you're so
everything's
generous.
a team effort, so.
Yeah. No, that's again, it's something that I think people need to think about when it comes to traveling and choosing where you spend your time and money. It's like, what do you align with? Do you want to come and stand around in a tasting room and be one of many that perhaps don't get enough attention, enough value for their presence, but here you can really be embraced and really feel like you got something so special. You got those memories that you'll cherish for a lifetime. So I think that's a pretty important piece of the decision making.
Yes.
When it comes to how time really, even before money. How do you feel about yourself? How do you experience yourself in the environment?
Yeah.
And I know that once you're here, you just start breathing. Number one, it's like wow,
I'm always the person I start looking at things like, okay, well, we can do this, let's do this. You can't do everything at once. Sometimes you have to tackle one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And take it with stride, right? You got to go and, okay, well, there's the big fire or whatever. Well, we got to do this, and then we got to do that. And you take the next steps until you are happy with the best possible end results, you know?
And that really applies broadly to any adversity.
Yes.
We're in a precarious situation right now. There's a lot of unknowns, but the same basic principles still apply.
Yeah.
That measured approach, that communal approach, that what is the best solution? That's universal.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
Thank you. Well, it brings us to the Sangiovese.
Yes, I am staring at the
might warm us up. The red wine might be good.
Yes, no, I'm very excited to try it and hear about it.
This is our 2016 Sangiovese. We farmed this at our Eakle ranch. David can tell you a little more about the farming.
We already touched on this a little bit about how we designate the two fields separate. The Sangiovese essentially split in half. This half is the red. We farm it for, the red wine. A little lower yielding opposed to the rosé, which is a higher yielding. We chose this part of the vineyard because it is a little bit smaller clusters for the Sangiovese compared to the rosé side. So I think it adds a little intensity to the flavors and makes a nice Sangiovese red wine, which Greg can touch on a little more about the wine.
And the Sangio is a fun grape to work with because it is a little bit lighter, and you just get such great complexity. The bright Bing cherry, the acidity makes a really great food wine. It's very versatile, and it's a little bit more. It's a thinner skin grape, so it's very different to make than a Cabernet. And you definitely go a little bit more gentle on it and just try to preserve the natural beauty of the grapes, and it's a lot of fun.
Again, that bright acidity, it's a lovely Sangiovese, and let's face it, there's not a lot of good Sangiovese in this country. There just isn't. And I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg. It's not because it's not planted enough and experimented with or whatever the reason, but it's not what leaps to mind when it comes to the varietal as far as, I'm going to get some from Napa Valley, for example. But
definitely.
Every wine is definitely what you put into it. As we've seen throughout the market, so their fads and what wines are up and what varietals are down. And some wineries do chase, you can get lost in chasing the next, big thing, the next big wine, the next. And I think what ours is focusing on just really doing well and farming for what we have and making great wines out of what grows well here. And I think that is showcased in the Sangiovese.
Again, it's that classic timeless approach. Do what's right and other things will fall into place as opposed to chasing trends. And I can tell in your wines, again, every single one of them showcase such balance and this acidity that I always look for. Because that's the backbone, that's the skeleton. And you hang everything else on it, or if you don't have that foundation, then it just falls flat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everything I tasted so far is really very well made. So that's testimony to you and John.
Well, wine is food, and it should be versatile, and it should have the acidity that makes it pair well with cuisine.
Absolutely. No, and you're describing this fabulous events that you have that almost always involve food. So you want to get consumed with food on site.
Yes.
So they have to measure up, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Very cool. So what's this lovely red that we have next?
This is our 2017 Napa Valley Cabernet. We do a couple different Cabernets, but this is our 2017, and it is actually farmed at our Eakle Ranch as well.
Wow, it smells amazing.
So we have about 3 different blocks at our Eakle Ranch of Cabernet, ranging in clones. And so we'll take, we have about almost 60 acres planted, so we don't use everything ourselves, but we're definitely able to go into our vineyards and we pick the best spots that we want, the spots we want in areas. So Greg and I have our, rows designated for Pro Valley Winery, and so we take some rows from each block that we have, and we'll hand pick it at our what we think is optimal ripeness. Probably ranging between 25 and 26.5 bricks is my guess.
Yep.
And we bring those lots in here, and then from there, Greg doesn't just make that one lot from that one lot picked.
Yeah.
We have different segments within each lot.
Yeah, a lot of the picks will split into different tanks, and we'll do different yeasts, different temperature regimens, and get different expressions out of that grape. So, like I said before, when we sit down to blend, we have a lot of different components to put together and build a complex wine. And this is a really nice Cabernet here. This has actually yet to be released, and you're one of the first people to taste it.
Oh my God,
and
I'm so honored.
I'm really thinking that it's ready to go. It's just expressing really beautiful aromatics, lots of dark fruit, but it has that tobacco leaf and just a hint of leather on the back. carries really well through with a very supple palate.
Very much so. The mid palate is fabulous, and the aromatics that you described in the finish is so long. I've had it a little bit ago, and I'm still tasting it.
And for me, when I make wine, I really look at the texture more than anything else. You know, the aromatics show up. They're there. But really, the most fine, opulent wine that you can build with the most finesse all comes down to texture.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And obviously, that ties into that ripeness that you were mentioning earlier. And for those of you that don't know, Brix it measures sugar in a grape, but the real important piece is physiological ripeness. Is not really how many, but what it tastes like.
Yes.
And is it completely ready to go, as you described? And that's what speaks to the mouthfeel and the texture that you're such a fan of, and obviously, work very hard to make sure that it's preserved and showcased.
So when we're out in the vineyard, those are the things we're really looking at. We're really looking at the skins more than anything else. I mean, we do track the sugar, but it plays a very small role in our decision making. We're looking for soft skins when we bite into the grape, when we chew it. What texture does that have? And then we can extrapolate that into what type of wine it's going to make.
In some cases, we'll even do 2 passes through the same vineyard picking.
Talk about labor intensive.
And so we'll go through one and give the guys a parameter of what we're looking for. And generally it's on one side or the other. It may even only be like 5-6 days difference. But in the whole scheme of things, it really makes a better product in the end, because we're able to separate in the field the different qualities of the fruit. And we did that, and it actually worked very well last year in doing that. And so again, that goes back to being almost pretty much vertically integrated, and so we're able to do that and not be scared of it.
We're able to make wine in the vineyard, starting in the vineyard and farming all the way up to it to the cellar, versus where some people don't have that option. Here's the fruit you're given, you have some choices to make along the way, and then you have to make the wine with the fruit that you're handed.
I was hesitant to begin with, and then once we did it, I was like, okay, now I see why. And so
you describing such attention to detail.
And that's all of us coming together as well, and getting recommendations from Jean and Greg and myself, and coming together and again making a decision.
And one thing I want to say right away, this is a 2017, and it's so delicious. So whatever you guys do not stay away wholesale from 2017 just because you read somewhere.
I would say 95% of our stuff was picked before the fire regardless. But a lot of people are. I would say most things in Napa were picked before the fires.
You have a couple areas that were definitely touched by the fire. But I think in a whole, that's a lot of hype when there's such amazing wines for 2017.
And for our 2017s, none of those made it into the final blends.
I just tasted a bunch during the premiere week, and to me, 16s were pretty shut down overall. I think they will be phenomenal wines down the road. But 17s were just giving with both hands. With such young wines, I was in shock. So I think that any consumer that just shuns that vintage because of some theoretical stuff that was written down by somebody is doing themselves a huge disservice. They're so delicious, and this is just one example of something that I want to keep going back to again and again. And another thing I don't want to overlook, your whole portfolio of wines is priced very well, very competitively, very gently on the wallet. But particularly the Cabernet. To find a Cabernet in Napa Valley at this price point is probably impossible at this point.
There's wines out there definitely at that price point, generally from the bigger wineries. Probably because they own their own vineyards, kind of similar to us. And so our goal for our Napa Valley Cabernet is to grow the program a little bit, but we do offer our reserve program, and we do have our Eakle brand that we're pushing out. It's a little, to a little higher price point, but smaller production even yet again. And so I think it's important to be competitive with owning our own vineyards and whatnot. It's very important in longevity of owning a business.
But this is definitely value, and by value I mean the quality-price ratio.
Exactly.
The quality is there all the way, as you heard.
And to Ilona's point, even there are some wines you see in Napa that are at this price point, but they're not made this way.
No,
they don't have
that had a sneaking suspicion.
The care and the love
really
put into them, and this small lot production.
Yeah, absolutely. To be that detail oriented to the minuscule pieces of it, to make so many decisions in the vineyard incrementally, calling those small lots. I mean, that's hard economically to correlate to the price point that you operate at.
Being vertically integrated does help.
Yeah.
And I think our focus too is on really giving these products to our direct to consumer. We don't do a lot of wholesale, a lot of FOB driven wines. These are all direct to consumer primarily, just because of our size.
Of course.
And it's just, I like having that direct connect with our customers. I like seeing how it's part of their daily life and inviting them into ours and sharing it. And that's how I like being at their dinner table essentially. And I think that's one thing being competitive with the price points allows us to do. And I think it's also a testament to, being vertically integrated and saying, I always want our wines to show, I want them to take and be like, it's a great value. This is amazing. I will buy 5 more bottles of this versus being disappointed. I would never want someone to pick up a glass of our wine and be disappointed. And not that I think they ever would, but that's
like
definitely.
you said, it's family. You don't want to disappoint family members.
Exactly.
Bad idea.
Bad idea.
So what other wines do you make? I know you make some club-only wines, but just kind of give me a smattering of what might be available.
We do a lot. The Sauvignon Blanc and the Rosé are our whites, and then we go everywhere from the Sangiovese to cabs with Merlot. We have an amazing Merlot. We have not released our 17 yet, and our 16 is sold out. So the reds will most likely be released at our June event. So look forward to that, and it'll be a lot of fun. We have some fun blends. Our 2014 Fault line was just released, which is an amazing Bordeaux style blend.
That's right. You have Malbec and Bordeaux on property, so of course you do a Bordeaux blend.
We do a lot. We did a Malbec. We've done Petit Verdot, which has done really well. We actually sold out of it fairly quickly.
Zinfandel.
And a Zinfandel, which is pretty much is allocated to club. So there are wines that aren't available to the general public that you have to be a club member to get, just because of the sheer volume of what we make. We only make about 35 cases of our Zing currently.
For the 2018, there will be a Petit Syrah.
And a Petit Syrah for 2018 . So.
And that's why we planted more Zinfandel.
As the club grows.
It's a nice.
We were doing our soil pits last week on everything, and it looks very promising.
That's so cool.
Yeah, beautiful soil.
And then we also do a port, which is it's kind of on the realm of unusual, but we do an amazing port. We have our 2002 Zinfandel port, North Coast, going into bottle later this month, and it's been barrel aged for 18 years now. So
oh my God.
We only bottle it in small increments. We bottle it in 100-case lots, and it's something definitely fun, great with chocolate, and it allows us to make a really well-rounded program.
And something tells me again that has some acidity and some. It's a serious affair. It's not just something sweet.
Yeah, it has depth and complexity and lots of different dimensions to it. I like it by itself. It's just such an interesting wine.
Well, I might have to make it back here more than once.
You're very welcome.
Sounds like
we got you hooked already.
Yep.
Sounds like a great portfolio.
Thank you.
And very, complete, like you said. Anything from Sauvignon Blanc to a dessert.
Yep.
So I saw a poster of Al Capone, which fascinates me to no end. I got to hear that story.
So the story has it that Sam Haas served with somebody, not with Al Capone himself, but one of his family members or someone involved with him. And during Prohibition, they decided that it would be a good idea to bootleg with Al Capone until it wasn't a good idea. And they decided that was probably not the best life longevity idea. And so they parted ways. The winery itself has a fun history there, from the original founding family immigrating over here to start it, and as you can see, all the buildings built over the top of the creeks. It's just such a unique architecture, and historical site that you don't get to see, but lots of fun stories. If walls could talk, we would.
And that's a Swiss influence, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Swiss, German.
They were Germans from Switzerland.
Yes.
And your winemaker happens to winemaker of record. John happened to be.
I know,
Swiss.
isn't that fun? I thought about that the other day. I was kind of like, wow, it made a full circle 120 years later.
And totally organically, just somehow comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you're planting a new vineyard, and that's exciting. Any other plans? What's the future kind of looking like for you?
The future is Diana. Where is our future?
Our future, we're planning on expanding production. I mean, again, we will still ultimately always be a boutique small production winery, but expanding production a little bit bigger than what we are now. And really just focusing on our club members and our direct-to-consumer, having those fun events. Like you said, we always have a reason to come out here other than great wine. And creating diverse wines so that when they open their club shipment, they're excited. And it's not the same cookie-cutter wines, but something they can really have one for now, store for later, and have an experience. And just increasing that, making great wine and continuing to build up our sites and really not necessarily restore, but being able to showcase this property and this lifestyle, invite everybody to share in what we already get to enjoy. During the summer months, we have bocce ball, we have yard games, we have adult only and family friendly events. We're always dog friendly, so it's really an all-inclusive place where you can just enjoy the quality that Napa Valley has to offer and these amazing wines while still maintaining that connection to how wines are grown and the land and I guess the winery as a whole.
Such a beautiful sentiment. I mean, I can't get enough of it. That's why I'm constantly in the valley, and this is just the largesse of it right there.
Yeah.
From a viticultural perspective, Pope Valley, it's a very unique.
It's kind of a hillside valley, I'd say. Our properties range from about 600 to 800 feet elevation.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit higher than Napa. We have a little bit more of a diverse climate. So essentially it'll be 10 degrees cooler or 10 degrees warmer than Napa, which is challenging, but I think it does make the terroir. And even the north end of Pope Valley and the south end of Pope Valley are definitely a little bit different. Where we were literally just doing soil pits last week. One site all the way about 5 miles south, and then up here at the winery, and the soil profile is completely different. And so choosing varietals that grow better in each soil is very key, I think. And so
very cool.
That's what I like.
And from the winemaking perspective, what are you the most excited about?
I'm excited about all the unique things that Pope Valley has to offer. We had a really outstanding 2019 harvest. We're extremely excited with how the wines turned out, and we want to continue that. The fruit in Pope Valley has so much to offer that really one of the keys for us was being restrained. And every lot was pressed off before fermentation was complete, and the result of that was that we got all of the really delicate textures that come out up front, and we avoided any roughness that would come out on the tail end of the fermentation.
Well, it sounds very exciting, something to look forward to, and you guys have heard this. This is so unassuming, so heartfelt. History, literally, at every turn. This is a living, historical space that is also so welcoming and warm.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It has a kind of sense of just...
family?
We just want to be here.
That's right. So come
you
to
hang outside on a
yeah.
nice day, you just want to just stay there and enjoy
Was it club members who came the other day to... they came by just to see how the release party was going, because they were bringing a large group the next day, and they ended up staying all day the day before. It was a lot of fun.
I could see how it would be difficult to leave. I'm not sure I'll be going anytime soon.
Yeah, I think it's the best lunch destination, the best picnic destination in Napa Valley, hands down.
That is, in and out of itself, a huge incentive to come.
Yes.
So there you are. You can thank us later.
Thanks again for tuning in to the official podcast of Palate Exposure featuring Ilona Thompson. We'll see you again next week.